Enough, nothing to do.
That's really open-ended. Enough, nothing to do. Uh, it's funny because my first initial thought when I think about that idea, those ideas together, is the concept of existence itself. In the sense that I very much feel like as beings that exist, we are given enough, even though it doesn't always look like that. And also, even though we're given enough, a lot of people get stuck in that existential dilemma of feeling like they have nothing to do. Right? That's super common. I everybody can relate to that. Where I'm at right now, though, I rarely find myself actually believing that I have nothing to do because I'm so excited about so many things right now. I tend to stay super busy. But that's very open-ended, so I'm curious to see where you're going to go with this.
I love where you took that, and I want to go back and forth on where you took that, where I was coming from, and I know it was vague just because I didn't want to write a lot of words down. In a roundabout way, my first ego death, if you want to call it that, was off of, I want to say, maybe 4 grams. And I went out in nature. I just parked somewhere on a back road and walked into the woods. And it started raining. And I melted and realized that the grass was one and I was one. And these concepts of Mother Nature and Father Sky and connecting to both of those at the same time. And that was the first time I fully not just chewed on the thought of being enough, that like at the root of a lot of people's discontent is, am I enough? I'm not enough. How could I be enough? What do I need to do to become enough? Well, if it's all one and you are enough because you are love, therefore, if you're already enough, there's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to do. That's why I drew the arrow. There's nothing to do here. You don't need to do anything. So, with that in mind, what do you want to do? Because the only way out is through. You are stuck here. You do have to pass the time. You do have to find some form of fulfillment to stay balanced, to not have existential dread when you realize that there is no death and this goes on forever. You need something to do, and you need to find something that you want to do, not something you've been told you think you should want to do. How do you feel about that?
Oh, that was super cool because that ties into some of the concepts that I've been playing with a lot recently in terms of enough. So there's a conversation in the human experience that everybody has. You touched on it well in the aspect of self-validity. People are always kind of fighting with themselves. Am I enough? Well, we all tend to go through a stage where we fight with ourselves. Am I enough? Can I be enough? Will I ever be enough? Those kinds of thoughts. And I'm in a great space these days in terms of that interpretation, because so the way that I really look at it ties into the oneness of all of this as well, in the sense that we all are connected. Yeah, but like, we exist. Even more importantly, we actually exist. We are a reflection of the infinite, of the creator, of the source, of whatever you want to label that thing, God or whatever. We do exist. And I think that in our existence itself, I think that really says it all. I think that says to us, you are enough, you are worthy, you are valued. Because you exist is enough. That's one of the things that I've kind of learned a lot lately in myself, and a lot of people will disagree with that. That's fine. But now to reach for the other part of it, nothing to do. You don't have to do anything because you are enough. I fully believe that. I fully agree with that. And this year, that's been a theme for me because I am one of those people. And this is a little joke here because I don't really buy into the whole astrology thing yet. But so I'm a Virgo, and they always say that Virgos are like perfectionists, We always have our hands on with things, trying to mold it to how we need an experience to be. So there's a lot of control there. And this year of my life has been a huge lesson in letting go of control. Like, I don't have to try. I don't have to force these things. I don't have to try to make them bend to my will. But rather, I've learned that I can relax and let my true energy, my true power guide the things towards, the outcomes that I really want to experience. And so this year I've learned a lot about not having to do those things in terms of forcing the experience and just relaxing and coming into being. And it's been like revitalizing. So revitalizing.
I'm glad that those few words I wrote down brought you to that mantra you have of I exist, because I was glancing at a piece of paper of like sketches you had done a couple months ago, and I saw that written down, or I saw it written down on something that you had, and it just said I exist. I was like, I wonder what the significance or the like extra meaning that was worth it to you in the state of mind you were in when you wrote that down. And could you elaborate on I exist and why that's important and why that's relevant and why that's probably universal to anyone who's wondering, like, why do I? Should I even? Does it matter that I?
Oh yeah, that one's a lot of fun for me all the time. It's one of those revelations that I get in a lot of my meditations and in a lot of my trips, where I'm kind of surrendered to the flow of whatever the experience is. Things are coming and going, and I'm, the passive observer or the interactive observer, whatever is going on. But oftentimes I'll have this moment where I remember, like, oh yeah, I exist. Like, I'm in this bitch. Like, we're out here. We're really doing it. And so for me, I think the sketch that you saw it written on was from a moment where I was sketching and I was having a lot of fun, and I was like, wow, like just existing is a lot of fun. And it was just that simple, that I exist. Yay. Let's celebrate that. Let's just be. And a lot of the painting that I've been getting into these days is a reflection of just me existing. It's me asking myself, okay, I exist. Now, what would I do if it was only me existing on the planet? If everyone was gone, if all of humanity was gone and it was just me, what would I do? What would I want to do? How would I want to have fun? And lately, I find myself reaching for art and also music, but more so just like visual art these days. So I exist for me is literally a celebration of the realization that I'll always exist also. It's one of the things that you'll find with conversations with me is I very much believe that our existence is eternal, even though our human form may not be. I very much believe that just because we cease to have human bodies doesn't mean anything really in terms of the bigger picture, because we're still a reference point of energy, of consciousness in the matrix of infinity. And so we'll always exist in one shape or form, So it's just that celebration. It's just that party.
It's just that celebration. It's just that party. You said, I exist, and so you're out here, and you're really in this bitch. And that makes me think of right before 2020. It was 29. Well, you know what? It was January of 2020, so it was right before everything fell off. And I had, you could call them an acquaintance, you could call them a friend, you could call them a drug dealer. They were someone I knew, who was going through it and had been going through it for a while. And this'll get into like people that have delved into altered states, and it did not heal, and it did not help as much as it could have. Well, they offed themselves is the most, straightforward way I can put that. They offed themselves January 2020, and I want to say like the day before I had heard that news, because it happened at night, and then I found out in the morning from a friend, and I don't remember if I heard it on a podcast and I like really like thought, oh, this is a good worldview to escape existential dread. I heard this phrase, and I don't know if it was from podcast or if it was from like an Instagram like dumb motivational speech thing. It just said embrace the incarnation, and that's exactly parallel to what you're saying. And so I heard embrace the incarnation. I was like, yeah, fucking run with that. And then this person off themselves that I knew, and then I thought, wow, for as awful as 2020 was, think about if they had not cut it short, and obviously they're somewhere now. That wasn't the end for them. But think of how interesting things have gotten since then. Think about how much of a mind fuck the world has become in the past 3 years or so. And just like, it might not have gotten better for them, but I feel like they should have stuck around. And the fact that they didn't and I'm still here, I need to embrace the incarnation as a service to their healing that is still present somewhere.
Dude, I think that's really well said in your interpretation of how you're going to kind of honor their legacy or their memory. Because this is a more controversial belief that I hold, but I've had it for a long time. And I do think that a lot of the human deaths around us, when we have friends die, when we have family die, I think a lot of the times that it really is kind of a mirror reflection for us to as an external party, the one that's not dying. I feel like it's a mirror for us to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, am I living right now? Is this how I want to live right now? Am I being true to myself? And then a lot of times these deaths can be powerful because when you see someone die and it's such an emotional experience, sometimes that can lead to great transformation for us because we're like, oh, wow, it might help us identify things that we weren't looking at, things that we kept hidden. But sometimes when people die, you realize, oh, shit, the thing that I kept hidden, the thing that I kept hidden from myself was a big deal for them. And this is how they processed it. And so it gives us an opportunity to realize, like, do I want to process it in a similar way or not? And it gives us that opportunity to really start making decisions. But yeah, so that's more of a controversial belief. I really do think that a lot of our deaths, that we sometimes choose deaths, a certain way of death, to help those around us in processing their own individual things. And just to wrap that up, on that note, you said something about really living yourself and actually shifting into a state of the joyous living. And I also do that when people die around me. I like to celebrate them by joyously living and doing the things that I know would make both of us smile, for the sake of it, not for any other reason than for joy itself, than for good, positive energy itself. I also had a friend die that way in 2019. And those questions, all those questions that you just asked yourself, those are questions that I also went through with my situation. And I still go through because he's on my mind all the time. And that just reminds me, I need to do some sketches with his name now. It's time. He also painted.
And what did he write?
So he wasn't a huge writer, but he loved to paint graffiti. So he had a collection of names that he painted over the years. And one of the ones that he was big on, it's a really common name. You see it in every graffiti wall across the country. There's this name, and it's just Nope, N-O-P-E. There's a few big ones. There's a few legendary Nopes. But no, that was like the one that he liked the most. He painted Nope quite a bit. But he was like a punk rocker and really chill dude, just like a real teddy bear of a human being with a lot of love in his heart. And he would hit me up to paint because that time in my life, I wasn't really focused on painting. This was like 2015, 2016. I would go down and hit a few throwies every once in a while, but I wasn't focused on piecing. And he'd hit me up like, yo, dude, let's go piece. Let's go hang out at the wall and do some piecing. And that was always a lot of fun. I wish I could have got some more time in with him, but I'm sure we'll catch some tags on another plane.
Yeah, oh, let me show you actually instead of just referencing it. This is very good podcast material. The visual picture on the phone. I sketched this just once or twice because I like the way the end was turning. I think I showed it to you. It's from like a month ago. But that's just a variation of nope, obviously. Being receptive over being transmissive, I guess, is the way you would say that word in that way. Go for it.
Yeah. So receptive and transmissions. So I have been really thinking about the brain a lot, the human brain, and all of its like mysterious nature around it. Like we know that our brain, well, we think that our brain is like this antenna for consciousness. The Egyptians knew that it was an antenna, but in our modern understanding of science, we think that the brain might be receiving consciousness. And I do think that's what's going on here. So my question though lately is, so I'm receiving things all the time, but where's the actual transmission coming from? Because is the transmission coming from my brain? Am I transmitting and receiving? Because like I don't know I don't know the mechanisms well enough to understand if the brain is capable to both receive and transmit. But so my thought is maybe we exist outside of our body as an energy and we transmit from a different place. And our brain, and right, from the Godhead, from our higher self or source or whatever your relationship with that idea is. Maybe we actually transmit from there and our physical brain is only perceiving, receiving. But so this is just something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I don't know. I don't know where I land on that spectrum of belief. I'm still kind of playing around with it.
So, maybe it's somewhere in between. Maybe it's a paradox. Maybe you are, because it's I and I, maybe you are receiving the transmission from your higher self. I guess when I guess when I wrote down be receptive, it meant listening to that small voice. I heard of this practice to figure out like what you and who's you, but like what you actually believe is if you ask, your inner narrative, like if you ask your mind a yes or no question, you will get two responses. One you will get instantly like that, and that is supposedly that's your intuition, and then the thinking mind will come up with it like it's lagging. It'll come up with it like a moment later, like just a split second later. But listen closely to the first response you get, and that's what I'm talking about, listening to that. That's an easy way to have, what do they call that, beginner's mind, where the no mind, like that's a good way to be present and embodied and not be living from up here but be living through here. What does that make you think of?
Okay. Excuse me. I'm glad you broke it down for me because this is really fun for me to talk about. I just wrote a song a few weeks ago, and one of the lines kind of addressed this idea. And so a lot of people, and everybody, just not a lot of people, but everybody, we all have moments where we don't go with our intuition, that first voice that you're talking about, which is our intuition, our true self, our first reaction, our real reaction. Oftentimes we'll be like, oh, I'm excited about this, but I can't do it because I'm not ready to do it, or I don't have the skills to do it. I don't have the money to do it. I don't have the relationships to do it. We have all of these limiting factors that we impose upon ourselves. So for where I'm at lately, my practice for years now has been to not limit myself with that but to listen to that first initial reaction that I have in a situation. And so the way that I described this in the song, the lyrics that I used were something like this. I used to feel it in my dreams, but then I'd think no. But now I feel it in my bones and let my dreams grow. And with that line, I'm just describing that I used to hold myself back by overthinking and limiting myself, by not believing in myself. But now I believe in myself so strongly, it's in my bones that I have no choice but to grow. And this whole concept here, that whole idea is what guided me to my current obsession with physics that I've been talking to you about now for like 3 months. It's because I realized I shifted into this space of like truly 1,000, 1 million, gajillion, trillion % believing in myself. And as I've done that, all of the little things that I've been trying to work on in my life, all of those little things that I like want to see growth in, whether it be my music, my art, my relationship with people, all of that stuff has exploded, and it's in a positive way. It's exploded with love, and all of those things that I was looking for have started to happen synchronistically, back to back to back to back to back. And I realized it's because I started believing in myself and loving myself truly, fully. And so I've seen the reflection of my life totally change forms. Where there used to be a lot of gray days and a lot of muddy days and ugly feelings and not feeling great in my life, in my day-to-day life, is now full of positive energy, a lot of lighthearted good times, a lot of laughing at myself, a lot of remembering that it doesn't have to be so serious. I don't have to take things so harshly and hold everything on my shoulders and let it weigh me down, but I can have fun even with the hard stuff instead. And so, yeah, that's a little bit long-winded, but that's where I'm at with it these days, is that I used to dream, but then I'd think no. Now I feel it in my bones and let my dreams grow.
So we could do a whole podcast just on the concept of limiting beliefs, and once you let go of that, you have unlimited potential, for real. But I want to go back to that lyric because it's so important to me. Feeling something in your bones it's a knowing. It's transrational. You don't. It's beyond a theory. It's beyond faith. It's beyond any of that. It's true knowing when you really like feel it in your bones. Then like no one. When you know it's all one. When you know that there is no end to this, then it doesn't matter. I mean, reincarnation is what is happening constantly. Just pay attention to the seasons. How do you feel about the seasons in relation to reincarnation? I mean, since it is winter after all.
The seasons are super useful for me. They are great for me because I'm one of those people that tends to get caught in my patterns. And that a lot of people talk about getting caught in those patterns as it being a negative thing, but for me, I have a lot of fun, and I tend to get caught in repetitive patterns of fun sometimes. But so the seasons are a great reflection for me to shake me out of those patterns. Like, I love having a reminder that I can be flexible. And that's what I get from the seasons. A lot of people, there's a little bit more baggage with each season, specifically like winter, the dark gray one, cold one. But yeah, and I think that winter used to hit me harder in my youth, actually. I think that I had a lot more depression that would come with winters and rainy seasons. But these days, that's not the case at all. It's really reminding me that I can be flexible. I can take time to cry, right? Like in these really dark seasons, I can remind myself that it's all right to cry. It's natural to cry. It feels good to have a deep cry. And sunny days hit everyone in a nice spot. So there's that. But I really find the value in is in the variation, in the days that start very sunny, but then by 3 p.m. it's like rainy or cold. And then again, by the evening, it might be warmer again. Those days really, really give me something to play with mentally, really. And that's what I get out of it.
Mentally, what do you mean by that?
Like, because I get so caught in my mind sometimes. I'll start a day off and it'll be gray. I'll wake up into a gray day and I'll take on the gray mood sometimes even. But when it's one of those days that's flexible and it doesn't stay gray, but it turns sunny for a few hours maybe and then gray again, sometimes going through that process of dark gray sunny day back to a cold day, sometimes those kinds of shifts for me play with my mind and remind me to stop giving into the same pattern over and over again. Yeah, maybe I didn't feel good when I woke up. Maybe something rubbed me the wrong way and I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. That doesn't have to ruin my whole day. And sometimes just paying attention to the weather will remind me that, like, even the weather isn't static. It changes. It's constantly reflecting, consciousness or whatever, but it's consciously in flux is what I'm trying to say. And that's one thing I remind myself in those situations is like, dude, you're in flux. So why would you hold on to the negative and keep repeating that kind of thing? But so yeah, I kind of lost my stream there, but the basic point for me is that I get a lot of positive reminders from shifts in the weather, whereas when I was younger, I think the weather shifts kind of more negatively impacted me because I'd see things more often as a blockage. Like when the rain would come, I'd be like, oh, well, now I can't skate. I'm pissed off I can't skate. That ruined my day. But I don't feel that way these days. When things like rain come, I don't necessarily view it as a blockage, more so as just another factor that I can interpret in a negative or positive way. So I think what I'm trying to say is that the weather shifts have helped me realize, like, things aren't always, white or black, good or bad, positive or negative. There's room for neutrality in a lot of life. And so why not use that, more often? And that's what I meant.
So towards the beginning of that rant, there was a phrase you used that made me think of an interlude that's like a motivational fragment of a speech by Master P that's on a Solange album. I'm not going to play that over the mic because, copyright or whatever. I want you to hear it and I want you to build off of it because you talked about patterns not having to be a negative thing. You can make them into a positive thing. Listen to this and tell me what it makes you think in relation to building positive patterns in your life.
Dude, look at Master P with his enlightenment over there.
Like 5 interludes throughout that album that's all Master P and it's all motivational.
It doesn't surprise me. I grew up with Master P's music because of the neighborhood I was in. It was one of those neighborhoods where, everyone around me was into rap music. So I heard a lot of his stuff at an age where I shouldn't have heard it, actually. I remember the Ice Cream Truck album, or the Ice Cream Man, whatever the name is, the Ice Cream one. That was huge when I was younger. But, dude, that is awesome. I love to hear that on a hip-hop album. I love to hear that specifically on a Master P album. He's always been for the upliftment of his people, So those messages I really resonate with because it's there's no escaping that. And I feel like as humans, a lot of humans here spend 90% of their lives escaping that, trying to run from the fact that it's inside of you. It's that light that you're looking for, that love that you're looking for, that happily ever after that you're looking for. All of those like heavenly ideas, they're inside of you. And I say this all the time, but like the Hindus knew this, the Buddhists knew this. This is just like 101 for them. It's not new. It's like you are all that is. You are the God within, and namaste, the light in me sees so namaste, I'm going to butcher this because, I only know it through hippies and deadheads and yoga girls and stuff like that. But so namaste, as I interpret it, is the infinite divine within myself recognizes the infinite divine within yourself. Also, I see you, and I see you being me as I am being you. And so there's so many of those ancient kind of Eastern philosophies that have symbols tied to that, whether it be like the all-seeing eye or whatever. There's a ton of them, and I don't want to get into that because I'll lose myself. But so just to bring you more up to speed on the new music that I've been recording, because I've been so obsessive about learning more about physics, what I've realized is this idea about it being inside of ourselves and us having to kind of create this relationship with ourselves first before we can even love anything else. I think that physics, this sounds crazy, but I think that physics will mathematically be able to prove some of these ideas. I think that we will see literally from scientific experimentation, classical science, that there is a direct correlation with how our relationship, our belief systems, and our relationships with the things we believe guide our reality and guide our experiences of reality. I won't go too deep into that right now, but that's why I've been so into physics right now, is because I think there's an actual science connection with loving yourself. I think there's a science, I think there's a science connection. And, it goes both ways, because there's a scientific connection with hating yourself and not believing in yourself. And just you beat me to it. You beat me to it. No, that's so awesome. I'm going to pass you the mic because that was what I was going to hit on. That's one of the very basic reflections that we have in science as a kind of roadmap or a roadmap for how this might work, because I think the guy did these experiments with water. I think there was a Japanese scientist that did it with water, and I'm sure there's a ton of them that have worked with plants. But so there's crystal patterns in the water when you tell it negative things, when you tell it you're not good enough, or I don't like you, or you're ugly, or you'll never amount to anything. The patterns that the water makes are pretty discordant. They don't make sense. The patterns aren't very beautiful. They don't look well. They look like sick patterns. But when you tell the water, I love you, you're magnificent, you're full of infinity, the patterns are some of the most beautiful, geometrically shaped, and they have this symmetry that's just out of this world, because they're creating this high level kind of geometry. And it's crazy to think that just saying the difference in saying I don't like you or I do like you would create two opposite effects. And so that's really why I think that, and I think our science is kind of here. I think it's actually here now, and we just don't realize it. But as people, as scientists that are kind of thinking the way that I'm thinking, get deeper into their experiments and deeper into measuring things with actual devices, I think we'll see that there are electromagnetic effects of believing in yourself versus not believing in yourself. And I think that it's going to be very shocking for the world to finally realize, like, oh, this isn't just some kind of nonsense. This isn't some new age tomfoolery. This is actual science. And I've only recently, in the last 5 years of my life, kind of realized this. So it's new for me, and I don't know how long it's going to take for other people to see, but I'm not the only one. There's tons of people around me.
Scientifically speaking, stop holding yourself back. Get out of your own way. Eat, pray, love. Next. And on the upside of impermanence and equanimity.
This is definitely right up my avenue. So right now, impermanence for me is the theme. It's the theme. It's been the theme for a minute, because I've been doing a lot of art that I'm not attached to. It's totally been the theme for me. And I've been trying to work on putting a lot of my soul into the stuff that I work on without overly attaching myself to it, which is it's an interesting game to play. Yeah, it's an interesting dance to have, because like you're putting your everything into it. And I think as humans, a lot of times we like feel like we've invested a lot of whatever it is, energy, into these things, and so we get attached to our art projects because of all of the invested energy. And I'm trying to drop that, because like I was saying earlier, I think what we should invest in is the moment. We should invest in being present in ourselves, invest in believing in ourselves. Everything else is just kind of a side effect. Everything else is kind of just the physics of what happens after you start believing in yourself and investing in that moment of you right now. So, yeah, impermanence, I think, is the ability to let go. I mean, for me right now, it's important for me to show myself that I have the ability to let go. And the more I let go, the more that comes my way. That's the whole paradox of it. And another piece of ancient wisdom, nothing new. They knew that. It's just kind of fun to rediscover it from my perspective. So these are the kind of things that I've been putting into my music, because it's fun to have that reminder now from a different place. Because I didn't make music about this stuff years ago. And so it's been revealing kind of who I am through these experiences.
So I want to pry you for more on that, because that was great, and I feel like this topic we could go into for quite a while. But since you brought it around the notion of art and creating and having attachment to a product, I thought of this once before, and as a white man, I will tell you how to become a goat. Like the GOAT, like the best rapper alive, is you have to follow the what would you call this, the religious reasoning of Rastafarianism. And I'm only gonna say I and I. So the small self and the higher self are one. So where I'm going with this is, when you're writing down your raps and you're receiving the brilliance that is stream of consciousness, freestyle, whatever you want to call it. What you got to do is you got to alley oop with your higher self. So like, and that goes with the product itself. You can't be too attached to what you do create. The way to get the best words, the best art to come out is if you like take your talent and you give it up, you surrender it, and you let your higher self take the wheel. Yes, no, maybe?
Oh, absolutely. Dude, absolutely. Let your higher self guide you. Let it become the architect. And that's another one of my lyrics. Let the higher self become the architect, because it literally is. It already is. There's no escaping that. And the more that you let the higher self become the architect and the engineer and just the general builder of things, the easier those things that you're looking for can find you. The more natural the flow and the path of least resistance becomes. And I think that is just like one of the parts of this human game. One of the most fundamental pieces of living in this matrix is that you have this higher mind that you can interact with. You can let it guide the boat. Will you open the window for me? And when you do that, you become so much more powerful at those things you're trying to accomplish. So I think that a lot of people don't understand that, though. They're so kind of attached to trying to control every part of a process. And this is super relevant to artists. Becoming too involved in the processes itself. People want to guide every single factor. And I just think that when you can let go of trying to control every piece, your art will more easily reflect that stuff that you're looking for. We get lost in the sauce. That's the idea. We all get lost in the sauce kind of too easily at times. And for me, I've really been playing with staying sauceless, you know? Like I might try the sauce here and there, but I'm really so right now anyways, I'm so unattached from the stuff that I'm making that it's easy for me to make it, be excited about it, and then take that excitement into the next present moment, right? Just keep that excitement. So essentially what I'm saying is staying excited about being excited it's been a huge tool for me. And that just goes for everything, whether it be music, whether it be artwork, whether it be just like anything work related. Yeah, like staying excited about being excited, staying passionate about being in that state of passion. That's what's really been like helping me have some breakthroughs lately.